Okay, so got my comments back from the art director. We're good to go on this one, so going to start to paint this guy. Let's just check the spec. So I know the color scheme. She wants the color scheme to be like this, so red panel work and accents with a grey underneath. And she wants them to be kind of coloured like these examples here. So the red can be where this blue is. So it's going to be about, 30% red, 70% dark grey. So let's jump in. Stick my reference over there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the brightness of this sketch and then just clean up the outside. I've got a bit of a method for colouring, so you'll get to see this. Again, this is literally like a live stream. It's not going to be like a tutorial. I'm not going to be explaining every single process because I'm concentrating on doing my client work. But I'll try and explain a few things here and there if I can. If I remember, but most likely it will just be me silently painting and then just adding a little comment here and there if I think it's important, or if I remember. I kind of go into a bit of a trance when I'm painting. Right, so first things first. So I've got my color swatches up here. So this is, these are going to be my colors I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a new layer on top of the sketch, and then I tell you what, I want to use the Bezier curve, so I'm just going to pause this and then quickly look at a YouTube video on how to use a Bezier curve, because I normally just use the selection, but I want little tapered edges on my selection, so I'm just going to learn how to use this first. That's a good tip, by the way. Just whenever you come unstuck, just start discovering, and then you can just find a tutorial somewhere to learn. So just going to learn how to use the Bezier curve tool just quickly. So pause. Right, forget that. Bezier tool is too complicated. So I'm just going to use this selection tool here. Right, so we're going to select our panel work, and what I'll do, I'll just kind of do it roughly like this. To get our tapered edges, and then make sure we're on a new layer, and I'll just do one at a time. So I'm going to use a kind of rough brush. This is a pretty good one, and then we use like a mid-tone red, maybe down there. Maybe that brush is too rough actually. This one. Maybe kind of go for something a little less loud. So we're just picking out all the bits that we want to be red. And this will all make sense after I'm done. Trust me. It's a little bit of work right now, but it makes things a million times easier in the long run. Because what you can do, you can just select these shapes. Oh, I screwed that one up a little bit. It's okay. And then do all sorts of cool things to them that just saves a lot of time. And we can get these nice edges as well. Ah, bugger. It's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. The tool can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but doesn't matter if you make a mistake, just as long as you've got the majority of it in there. So there's another one, fit it in. Let's get my reference up again. Right, so where was my mistake earlier? It was there, wasn't it? So just get rid of that. Okay, and then we'll do all of this bit as well. Maybe that can be, we'll leave that. Because that's like the barrel, isn't it? So it's probably not going to have much panel work on it. That, there, there. Don't worry, this will all come together. I'm kind of talking to myself as well as whoever's watching. Right, so let's have this bit here, the red panel. Again, we're going to stick to about, I don't know, 30%. 30-40% red panel work, and then the rest can be the grey machinery underneath. And then we're going to use some photo textures as well, so that's going to be fun. Not going to be reliant on them, but we're just going to use them to get that like nice gritty texture. I've got like some photos of some engines and machine components that I like to use. Alright, maybe we'll do this, and then what we'll do, we'll erase out all these other little shapes as well that are in the sketch layer underneath. So we won't lose any of this because we're using our layers. And that one. And then these little shapes here as well will be good. Nice. Probably won't do the grip of the trigger handle grip. I don't know, whatever you call it. Okay. Is that enough red? And then maybe we'll just do this front bit here. As I said, we'll be erasing out a lot of it anyway, so don't need to worry too much. And what I'll do in a second, I'll reduce the opacity, and then we can see where I need to erase. Okay. And then I might do that top bit of the scope there. Oh no, I might leave it actually. Screw it. Okay, so reduce the opacity, and then we can bring back. Just use a hard round. We can bring back some of this stuff here. and then you just hold shift and then you get a nice straight line. As I said, you've got to trust the process. After I've done all this, everything will come together quite quickly. So this is the boring bit, unfortunately. And then obviously when I start using some photo textures, things will come together very quickly. So let's just bring back some of these little details. This. Maybe this here as well. Again, I'm going to do stuff like this again properly, like tutorials like this with different modules and breakdowns and stuff. So if you really want to learn how to do it, then just keep an eye on my socials and there'll be some really useful stuff coming up. Alright, so another thing we can do is just use the selection tool again. Do that, erase it, and then even use the clone stamp. Oh bugger. Okay, that's not going to work. Oh. Again, it doesn't have to be too precise because it's an illustration at the end of the day. Just as long as you're getting the point across. You just want it, you know, like those three things are not exactly the same size, are they? But it's okay. There's always plenty of time to tidy everything up afterwards. Get rid of that. These bits. And some little holes here. This little square, whatever that is. Again, I don't really like, the most important thing of a gun is the trigger. As long as that's correct and to size of the way a human can use it, that's the anchor point that people will find in the design, and it will then become believable. Everything else is just, you know, icing on the cake. Anything else? Sometimes I like to just draw in these little panel joins as well, because you can do some really cool stuff with them in the next phase. Right, and then this, so I can just increase the brush. Boom. Hello. Boom. Down like that. Okay, cool. Right, so now bring it back up again. Okay, so it still looks pretty naff, right? So what I'm going to do now is maybe use like a multiply layer, so I keep the sketch underneath, and let's start painting in some of these real dark machine parts underneath. Again, you got to bear with me. It's like my sketches. I always start off like not very confident, and then it just somehow comes together. Again, these brushes are good because you get like instant texture, which is great. So just start to build up some values and colours, and because we've already selected those panels, we can just be as loose as we want. Keep glancing over at my reference just to make sure I'm staying on track. So like things like underneath this, so that can be like a lighter grey on top, but you know, underneath you're basically just painting light and shadow. You're causing like a cast shadow when there's a, again, I've said before, it's like 2D hard surface. You know, you're just putting layers of panel work on top of each other, as if you was like 3D modeling, but you're doing it in 2D, and you're painting you're creating the objects with paint. I don't know why there's a hole there. I must have accidentally used the rubber. That. What I might do quickly is just work on the cleaning up the silhouette, because if the silhouette is clean, then you can just select it and then paint in big loose brush strokes. And what's important to me is these slightly tapered corners, because if it's all just, I know this gun's got to be mostly hexagonal shapes, but they want to be complemented with little tapers. That's going to give it a nice realistic look. But obviously it's mostly made of hexagons. Oh shit. Oh, beep. So stuff like this, clean it up. Oops. Yeah, so let's go on our panel layer and just smooth out. It already looks quite smooth anyway, which is good. Maybe drop that down and then just cut that off. This is what's going to give you the realism that we're after. Not just the detail, obviously detail is super important for realism, but just the shapes are going to do a lot for us as well. And especially the silhouette. So just make sure so this is like a shoulder holster, so it's gonna be a little bit more curvy. It's got to rest against a human shoulder, and humans are not robots. We're not made of blocks, so if anything's got to interact with a human, it's normally a rounded shape. Okay, almost done. Like I don't work, if you notice, I don't work on one bit at a time. I work on the whole. I'm always traveling around the the item that we're illustrating. Otherwise you get too stuck in one place and then you zoom out and realise, oh, that is all completely wrong. So just work around the image like this. That one, that one. Try and get rid of some of these little sketch artifacts. Almost there. Again, all this stuff is quite tedious, but it's going to make the next few stages a lot easier and efficient. Curve that off. Do this bottom mount. It's supposed to be mounted to a vehicle, so I've given it some little ground lugs, or whatever you call them. Ground lugs. I think I just made up a word. Okay, I'm gonna start some more painting now. Right, so I might just work on the panels for a bit. So right click it, select pixels. And then the trick here is to get a nice textured brush. Because using texture, it's like detail for free. It's great. And then we're going to lower the opacity and the flow a lot so we can really build up. So firstly, we're going to do the darkest tones, so the light is going to be coming straight down this way. So any panel work like this that's not facing the light is going to be dark. So let's do the dark bits first. So maybe this is going to be quite dark. And then you can start to kind of figure out where the panel work is kind of sticking out the canvas in a 3D way. So there's like this, for example, here. There you go. Now that all of a sudden looks like it's supposed to stick out. Let's work with a much lighter value now. So if you look here, now that looks 3D. How quick that was. Same with this. Again, I never stick to one area for too long. Just always moving around the canvas. Let's change the colour. So like this bit, this bit on top. And then, oops, what the bloody hell was that? There's the ruler. And then we can use like a brilliant white, and then we can even start to add some little scratches where the light is just hitting the corners of each panel, like this. Always say the light's kind of top down, so things at the top, I'm going to have that light, and even just, you know, just get loose with it. Loosey goosey. Again, this isn't detail phase, this is just a rough colour and value pass. So you don't have to be right zoomed in and doing everything really accurate. If anything, if you keep it loose at the start, you're gonna end up with that nice painterly, human-made, illustrative look, which is what I like to see in my stuff. So this is probably going to have a bit of a dark edge to it. Don't know why. Just a bit of panel work that recedes in slightly. And kind of like the same with this as well. See, this is where that all that selection earlier is like really going to save some time, because we can just quickly and loosely put it in. That's what she said. Right. I'm painting in quite a stressful and erratic way. The reason being is I have 20 of these to do in just a couple of weeks, so I'm going to be at my desk for many hours. I'm going to have to work the weekend. This is the downsides of being a freelancer, and you better love what you do, which I do, so no dramas. Because you're going to have to sacrifice going out, doing things that you like doing. I mean, I managed to do what I like to do, but what I do, I have stages of just like crunch mode. I work, I stack up money, and then I'll just relax for a while and just go on a holiday or something. Just got back from holiday, actually. I'm currently in Vietnam. I've been living here for a while. I've just been exploring the Vietnamese countryside. It's bloody beautiful. I see how effective that is in a short space of time. That's really cool. Right, same for this as well. Let's get our slightly lighter tone in there, and then look, straight away you've got a panel edge there, as if the panel is sticking out from the canvas. These little illusions, that's all painting is. It's an illusion. It's just a flat image on a flat canvas, but you can make things look like They're 3D by playing around with edges, shapes and values, which I find very exciting. Look how excited I am. Now this is work. That's the thing, it does get to a point where it is work when you're doing it professionally. You're not having fun all the time, but if you work hard, you get to reap the benefits, and then you get to see, books with your artwork in. I just always think, just do your best work every time, even if you're tired, or as long as you know you've put the effort in, then that's where the rewarding part comes from. That's where the meaning gives your life meaning. There's a million ways I could do this. I could cheat this. But if I know I've done it the proper way, I'm going to feel satisfied and not feel like I'm wasting my life, which is a great feeling. Bring back this brush again. Dark values in there. And then we can just colour pick from what we've already done then. Maybe there's some lighter tones here. Ooh. These videos are probably going to be hilarious for some people. They're going to be like, look at the way his tongue sticks out when he's concentrating. And he has that weird look on his face. I don't care. Sorry, let's just get painting, shall we? Stop waffling. Right, so I'm gonna probably move back to the gumph underneath in a second. What I might do is switch to colour dodge, and then we can get some real nice effects using this tool. Just really bring up that shiny look. Not too much though, it's got to be subtle. All these tools, you've got to use them very subtly, otherwise you're going to overdo it, like I probably already have done just there. Just keep glancing back at your reference just to make sure you're staying on track with what the art spec requires. Right, let's go back to the layer underneath now. Okay, so select the pixels, keep a low opacity. Let's get some really dark values in here, and then we can start to make things really pop. Start to bring up the contrast. I'll do that in a minute. So this is probably going to be pretty dark for the bottom. No light reaching these parts. And then look, you can easily get a shadow going there. Yeah, this is when I start to have fun. When things start to look kind of realistic. It's good fun. Again, it's not really detail at this phase, so don't get bogged down with too many details. That will come later. Sorry, I watched the Dark Knight Rises last night. What a film! I've got Bane living rent-free inside my head. I don't know who I prefer, Bane or the Joker. They're both just completely different characters. I just love Bane because he's a freaking brute. Just a badass. He'll just come up to someone just dead. It's insane. Absolute powerhouse. What a man. Sorry. I'm being weird again. I'll probably stick these to about 30 minutes per video, because a lot of it is just kind of more than the same. If I'm only going to record stuff that I think is relevant. I mean, this one so far is the whole thing. But you can understand, it's exhausting to keep doing this. But, you know, I was looking for stuff like this when I was younger. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff out now, but a lot of content out there now, but everyone's kind of got their own take on things, and this is my take. So if it's useful, great. If it's not, then just find someone else you resonate with. It's as simple as that. Alright, let's darken that central bit. You can see how that's coming together already. I mean, how long's it been? Oh, it's been 30 minutes, so I would have thought so. Almost gave myself a compliment then. Right, let's deselect and then make a new selection here. Bum, 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 bum. And then same with this one. Selector. Bum, 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 bum. The more like subtle tone variations you can have, the more realistic it's going to look as well. Just a little tip there. So, you know, so we could just use this kind of bluey colour for this. Little tone variation just adds interest, adds realism. Right, so things like this, we could go straight in with colour dodge, so check this out. Check this out, guys. So, we can now make some metallic looking stuff quite easily by using colour dodge. Great tool for mechanical things. And then stuff like this as well. Make sure to keep the light consistent. I'll start to float over some different sections with it. So again, the underneath parts that I'm working on now, not the red panels. You just render it the same as the panels, but they've got to be more complicated. And obviously darker value. And just more mechanical in nature. You just got to think about these things while you're rendering. Now this is going to be mostly dark, but we can have a little light accent. There's not much light reaching these bottom parts. Just have a random bright bit there, shall we? Again, it's still just rough. Rough as hell. And then I'll clean it up later. I'll clean it up. Switch back to color dodge. Oops, increase the... And again, metal, it just little corners and edges just reflect like this. So if you want it to look realistic, you got to make sure you do that. This isn't going to be reflective. This is going to be like kind of plastic, I think, but not a red color. And then what I'll do, you know, like this kind of stuff I'm not really thinking about, I'm just doing it, and then I'll just take a step back, look at it, and then change it if it needs changing. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. So 30 minutes and it's already kind of looking like a realistic gun. So what I think I'm going to do now is bring the brightness down on that bottom layer just a little bit. And then maybe increase the brightness. Just having a think. I want it to pop. Oh, on color dodge, whoops. So it helps just to zoom out a lot as well. That'll help get the overall feel. As I say, if you stay zoomed in too often, that's when you make mistakes, because you're too focused on the details when you shouldn't be. Right, I want to build up some more saturated tones on this red panel work here, because that's too dark. It's a flat object, that, so I want to bring that up into the light. Same with this and this one, and then I'll go back in, put in the white highlights as well. Just all working in layers. Right, so get that colour again. Go back in. I think that's a good start, if I don't say so myself. I might even be tempted to drop in some photo textures next. What I'll probably do off camera is just tidy it up, because that is just going to be me tidying up all these little edges and corners, and you don't want to see that. Trust me. There's nothing new to be learnt by watching me do that. But yeah, separating these panels, selecting them, makes things so much easier. Imagine if this was all just one layered painting. It would be so difficult, this part. I mean, weapons are virtually the only thing I use layers for. Like my landscapes, for example, they're just all one layer because it's more of a free-flowing. Nature is kind of, doesn't have to be technically accurate with the edges like guns do, for example. Right. I like that. That's actually, if you zoom right out, does the job. But the time consuming bit is going to be all the details. Can I just do a colour dodge with that? Yes, I can. Why is that not giving me the underneath? It's weird. Current and below, maybe? There you go. Easy. I might switch to me blender brush, so we can kind of create some blended edged areas. So you've got to decide what panelled edge. So how would the light be reflected? This is what you've got to think. So the light's coming down this way. Right, so I've reflected the light the wrong way there. So and then have the shadow bit this side. That'll make a bit more sense, I think. Yeah, why not? Yeah, so this is all the bit that's kind of a bit mind numbing. The next phase will be like starting to detail, really thinking about the lighting and then the photo textures, and that's probably the section I'll bring back the recording on. Or I might just record the whole thing. I just really can't be bothered to deal with the time that it's going to take to upload. It's going to be like several hours of video in total, because I'm doing lots of these weapons and I'm recording most of them. Hats off to anyone that has got this far in watching. Taper that off. And that one. Probably give that a dark. I want want some like real bright white bits as well. Kind of like in my reference. It's kind of like maybe paint has worn off or something. I don't know, but it looks quite effective, I think. And then probably go to this layer again and bring up the contrast, and then go back to my color dodge. I could switch brushes, so I've got a brush like this, and I'll set that to color dodge and then see what results. Might give us like a painted scratched metal look, which it does, so that's great. This is the kind of stuff that gets me accused of using AI, because I know how to use brushes properly, and people forget that you can get these like highly polished, highly rendered effects just using Photoshop brushes. I mean, it is a cheat, to be honest. It is a cheat. But it's used in a creative way. I had to learn why I'm using this brush. And it's just like when you use a oil painting brush, like you get different brushes that you can splash on the canvas and they'll give you like, you know, like Bob Ross used to get like instant mountains with his palette knife. Which was always incredible to watch. Rest in peace, Bob Ross. One of the greats. Yeah, you can start getting these like rusted metal effects. I don't like the fact I can't see this panel here, so I'm going to really darken that up and darken this up as well. Just to bring up that contrast between these panels here. Ah, like this bit here. Shadow. Love a good shadow. And here as well. Nice. Again, just being really loose and playful with it. And then you can even start to kind of, let's use a different brush for this. Where's my flat one? That one there. Yeah, we can even, that's not the brush I selected. We can even start to add little marks going along the inner mechanical panels underneath, and that's when the realism is going to really start to come to life, like this. Fun, right? You think this started from absolutely nothing, and somehow I magicked this out of my mind. And it isn't magic, it's literally just repetition and just observing the world and just kind of being fascinated and inspired and passionate about creating things. You got to live it. Can't really be a part-time artist, I'm afraid. It's an obsession. I start to signify, describe some of these little mechanical parts here that like this. You imagine I've got 19 more to go. If you don't love this job, you'll soon quit. Create 19 guns from scratch. Okay. In 2 weeks. It's not easy. And you can easily get to burnout as well. That's why I eat right, I exercise. Stuff like that really helps if you're doing a really mentally taxing job. Again, you see me just floating around the canvas. I'm not staying in one place for more than 10 seconds. You got to work on it as a whole. Looks pretty cool. Not finished, but it's a good start. So I'll make another video, another part to this. Next part we're going to be getting stuck. Well, that's nearly an hour. Jesus. We're going to be getting stuck into details and texture. So see you in that one. Okay, last step. Texture and detail. Excuse that weird cough. Right, so I've made a folder and called it texture. And these are all photos I've purchased from ArtStation, intended for texture overlays. There's some I literally use all the time, so I'm going to start with them ones. This one is a favourite of mine. Just like a grungy texture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it out of that folder and then set it so it only sits on top of my panel layers. How easy is that? And then you get this nice shift in hue as well when you do this. It's good fun. Really starts to come together. Just be subtle with it. So just dot some about, and then we're gonna erase most of it. So merge all those layers, and then we'll go in, and what I normally do is set my brush to something like, set my eraser brush, I should say, to like something textured like this. So just going to go in and take away some of this grunge layer we just put on. just so it makes sense, so the values make sense. You need to bring, because that's shadow, so it's not going to be as bright, but you still want to see it. This is a really fun process. I always look forward to to doing this, adding my grunge. And then you can put in little scratches. Take out what you need. Because obviously it's the same texture as well, so we don't want it to look the same. So we're going to take out anything I don't want. And down here. Okay, cool. So I'll merge that down. That worked, yeah. And then we'll do the same for the bottom layer as well. So where's that gone? I need to find that same grunge texture again. There it is. Drop it in, lower the opacity. Now it's just on our metal layer. So same thing again. Again, subtlety is key, so I'm going to take away a lot of this, because obviously right now this looks a little bit too much. So just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, and then we'll merge it all and then take what I don't want away. Start from bottom to top. And then just take some of it away. Just so it doesn't look over the top. All these things is so easy to overdo. So we need to keep remembering to dial it back. Otherwise it's just going to look too busy. Right here, ridiculous. Dial that back. Just so it's nice and subtle. Nice, happy with that. So merge that down again. Right. What else have I got? Maybe I'll add something like this. Why can't I? Oh, I need to take it out of the group. That's it. Okay. Scale it down. Yeah, see, that's nice. Look how much realism that gives, just straight away. I probably want this one mostly on the bottom, because you imagine it's going to be real dirty down there. That works really well, I like that. And then the same here. And then probably flip it around a little bit. The same there. And then again, merge them. And then dial it back. I mean, you could sit and paint all of this in, but when you're working for a client, that is just not realistic whatsoever. Like I said, I've got to do 20 of these guns. So we've got to find ways that we can efficiently get these done, but still have it our own creation. That's a bit too much up there, isn't it? Always zoom out just to look at the overall composition. Okay, nice. I think that will do for a grunge layer. Right, so now things are going to get really interesting. I've got all these mechanical components, and we're going to use these tastefully to show the illusion of detail, and even just lay some stuff like straight over, like this. I'll show you this. Like, for example, I could put this on the bottom layer, and then there you go, just instantly got like some cool details there. Might even just keep that, duplicate it, put it, oops, so what I could do, I could get rid of these crappy looking cables that I just sketched in, and here as well, and then use this cool cable photo. Drop the lightness down, and then do some duplicating. And pushing and pulling the shape. Pretty cool, right? Much better. Right, so I might grab one of these again, this one, and then stick it on the top layer, and then we can use some of these little bits and pieces just to lay in for some little details. Like this. You can have repeating shapes in mechanical stuff, just not in nature. so you can reuse elements. That works there. And then maybe use the clone stamp, and we can bring that shape down this way. Just improvising. Okay, what else do I have? So this might be fun. So we could put it on this layer. Again, lower the opacity. Oh, I'm starting to reach burnout now. I need a break. I will finish this one off though. So these vent shapes are always good for mechanical things. So drop it in and then just erase out anything that I don't want. That can stay. I never used to be subtle with this stuff. If you look at my old weapon work using this same method, it's just so messy. I didn't understand subtlety at all, but what I've learned is you've got to really dial it back. You need areas of like little to no detail. It can't all just be detail, as it just looks like an absolute mess. So that works there as well. Maybe another one there. And then I can do like almost like a grip or something. Going down there, using that clone stamp again. So you can then repeat that shape. Maybe do it here as well. Okay, let's try another one. I want to use this and then just literally, because it's the same color, maybe I can make that look even more like this red color. Like that. And then let's just play around. I've just got an idea. I'm gonna use those cables for this down here. And then maybe let's try this. See, that looks cool. Like that could be a potential happy accident. That. And this is getting into kind of kit bash territory now, which I find really fun. That's pretty fun, isn't it? I think I'll use that. Grab it again. So we can use these in many different ways. And then apply paint over the top. Oops, I want to keep that like this, so get more of a smoother brush than that. And then we can make it all look uniform and make sense. Sorry, my words are just gone now. I'm in work mode. Like that. Paint that back in. Get rid of that. And then we can kind of create maybe a little connector for this. Yeah, nice. I might even just merge the whole thing now, to be honest. Move these out of the folder. Yeah, I'm going to be brave and merge the design. Merge visible. That is one layer now. Something I like to do as well is just play with this, because then you can spot any little bits on the page. Doesn't look like there's any. That's good. I'm pretty happy with this now. What I might do is an auto contrast. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Auto tone, auto color. Yeah, nice. That's almost 30 minutes. I'm going to call that finished. '25, and it's the 18th of April 25. Yeah, so that's a gun design from start to finish from a commission. So we've gone from sketch to blocking in to rough color and values and then texture. And I think that looks pretty cool. That's fully presentable. It's approved by the art director and ready to go in the book. So glad you enjoyed that process. Any questions, just fire away. And like I said, I'm going to create some more module and structured based tutorials. This was literally just like a stream of me working. So yeah, at least it's something. So see you in the next one. Peace.